Good evening. Tonight we're going to discuss the 1969 live album, Live Peace in Toronto, with John Lennon and the Plastic Ono Band. And of course, as famous as John Lennon is today, we also remember it as featuring Eric Clapton. And of course, Eric Clapton was already famous at the time. So this is the album. It's a painting called Blue that Yoko liked, and the Lennons inserted this cloud according to the internet, which I think looks like a lamb. Maybe is that the idea of peace? A lamb, the lamb of peace. I don't know. And on the back it has credits. I bought this album back in the late 70s as an import. I was really excited to buy it at the time. I took it over to my friend's house. We went up to his room, put it on the stereo and started listening to it. Side one was okay, you know, I'll say a little bit more about it. And then we got to side two, and that was really where the curiosity peaked, and we wondered what the hell it was. But anyway, this is a discussion of Live Peace in Toronto by the Plastic Ono Band. I just was reading the Eric Clapton biography, which I do recommend, and he talks about this album, and it's so interesting to read his take on it. He was still in Blind Faith, but Blind Faith was kind of falling apart. I think it had already was already kind of in the rearview mirror. And he got a call from John Lennon, would he like to do this show in Toronto? And Chuck Berry was at the show, and they were going to be one of the acts. So he flew on a plane. I guess they played a little bit on the plane and maybe a little bit before, but basically they went on stage unrehearsed and played, and the lineup was Eric Clapton, John Lennon, Klaus Voormann on bass, and Alan White, the drummer who became famous in Yes, on drums, and of course Yoko Ono. And if you can watch clips of this, that's actually pretty good video footage. You know, it's not like real blurry or something. That's on YouTube, and Yoko's there the whole time. So it is what it is. I mean, but that was the lineup, and they played. Eric Clapton played a Les Paul. John Lennon had a hollow body, looked like maybe, and they just played. They played old rock and roll standards. I remember when I bought this record, I was really excited about it, and it was an import record, and in those days that was kind of cool. I paid $20 for it, and that was back in maybe 78, 79, when the typical album was, you know, $6 or $7, and it came in a plastic sleeve. It was in a special part of the record store, and I was a big Eric Clapton fan. That's why I bought it. And so took it over to my friend's house. We started listening to it. Side one, it just has a lot of rock standards, kind of things you'd play if you were almost like a pickup band, and Lennon singing, and I think it's the kind of thing that went back to the Beatles days in Liverpool and Hamburg when, you know, they did Dizzy Miss Lizzy and, Money, Blue Suede Shoes, things like that. And that's pretty good. I think it's I guess you could call it sloppy, although you have two good guitar players and people that know what they were doing on those songs, so it's okay to listen to. It sounds like what it is. It's just, four guys kind of playing through the songs. They do Cold Turkey, Your Blues, Give Peace a Chance. But it's definitely the Yoko Ono period. And I don't know about anybody else, but looking back on that period, I think that John Lennon was, I don't know, this is the guy that wrote, In My Life. He wrote Ticket to Ride. And he ended up doing a lot of these kind of off-the-wall things with Yoko Ono. I guess we could be critical of it. I sometimes feel like I want to be, and then I remember it's John Lennon. But side one is okay. Side one is okay. It is what it is. It's okay. You've got Eric Clapton on lead guitar, Lennon singing. Then we get to side two. I still remember that day listening to this album. We were at my friend's house. We were pretty into music, so we were paying pretty close attention to it. The first side, I don't think we thought it was great, but we listened to it. It was a rock and roll album. Then we put on side two, and there's a song called Don't Worry Kyoko, Mummy's Only Looking for a Hand in the Snow. And you can hear Lennon and Clapton kind of start this rolling blues type riff. And then Yoko Ono starts singing. And we were kind of listening to it, and she's, yeah. And you kept kind of waiting for something to materialize, this was a guy from the Beatles, and it never did. Yoko, and there really not even any words to it. I suppose it's a copywritten song, Don't Worry Kyoko, Mummy's Only Looking for a Hand in the Snow. But it's really just her kind of screaming. It's almost like primal scream therapy. And then the second piece on side two is a piece called John, Let's Hope for Peace. And in that one, John Lennon told Eric Clapton to leave his guitar on stage plugged in with the amp on. So you just have all this feedback of this amp just sitting there, kind of getting louder, doing all kinds of crazy hums and modulations and squeals. And Yoko just screams. And frankly, even at the time, I was a kid. But I remember being kind of appalled. I think I'm actually more appalled now. But I was even appalled back then. I didn't know what I was listening to. I didn't really have a context. I didn't know that much about Yoko Ono other than, who she was a little bit. And I knew the Plastic Ono Band, but it was a shocker. Looking back on this album now, this album came out in 1969. It is now September 2020. That's 51 years ago. I think my overall assessment is that it might be the worst album I've ever bought. I really mean that. I thought about it a while before I decided to say that, but I think it might be the worst album I ever bought. And I also think it's testimony to why Yoko Ono, I know she's done a lot for world peace and saving the whales, but she's a really appalling person in terms of the history of the Beatles and rock music, and I hate to say that, but that's my take. You know, side one was okay as a kind of artifact. I'm glad I have it. You know, it's worth having. You've got Eric Clapton and John Lennon playing together, Alan White on drums. They're just doing some old rock and roll songs. Could have been kind of a fun night, worth having, worth listening to. You know, some good licks from Eric Clapton. But side two to me is, I know it's of its time, but it's kind of unforgivable. Here you have Eric Clapton and John Lennon up there, two of the great musicians of their generation. And Yoko Ono's on that stage the whole time. She's on the stage when they're doing Blue Suede Shoes. And she can't sing. She has no talent. She's not even a lyricist. I mean, her anything really. She has this kind of avant-garde art personality that she tries to pose as, and she just to think that she had the chutzpah to get up there, and that some people would let her just sit up there and ruin a show like that. And side two is just ridiculous. Here you have people that want to hear Eric Clapton and John Lennon play, and she decides it would be great to take a whole half an album side to screech into a microphone while the guitars are feeding back. And I'm sorry. I guess when I look back on it, I just think it's testimony to something sad that happened to Lennon in that period. Now, if she made him happy in his personal life, who can deny a man that? And you know, maybe she's a nice person, but I'm just looking at it objectively as from a musician's standpoint and a musical standpoint, to have her in this historic event just ruin it by trying to present herself as a member of the band and just screeching into a microphone like that. It's just really appalling, and just a cacophony of noise coming out of her mouth, and it's disgusting, really. And that's my take on Yoko Ono. I hate to sound critical. That's probably, some people will think that's terrible, but that's what I think. And I think the album has its charm. You know, you kind of feel like you're there. It's, if you like hippies and pot smoke and everything, you kind of get that vibe from it. But the album itself, particularly side two, makes it the worst album that I own, and I have 500 records. Worst mainstream album. I maybe have some obscure ones and, you know, kind of you know, religious albums or something that are worse, but no one's ever heard of them. But of the mainstream commercial albums I've ever bought, this is the worst album I own. Live Peace in Toronto.